Good evening, everybody. Welcome to this evening's edition of Cabinet, probably the longest Cabinet meeting we've ever had. So hopefully all of you will enjoy this, the evening. It's probably going to be quite lengthy. So we'll start with apologies, and I think as we're all here, there are no apologies. Move on to any declarations of interest. I don't believe there are any. Minutes of the last meeting, I believe we've all had the opportunity to read those. Are there any comments, any amendments that you want to make? In that case, I'll sign them off. This meeting is being live streamed on the Council's YouTube channel. The recording of the meeting will remain online for 4 years, and if you are present in the chamber, you are consenting to appearing in the recording and broadcast, which may also be used for training purposes. Move on to public question time. I don't think there are any notified questions, so we'll move on to the next item, which is petitions and declarations. Are there any? None that we're aware of. So finally, Leader and Cabinet Members question time. Councillor Hilton.
Yeah, I'm just going to ask questions on number 5. I think we can debate the other issues when we get to full council, because I think the reports are going there as well. It's confirmed that we employ 298 members of staff, and those on salaries greater than £43,889. There's 26 members of staff employed, and 10 of them live outside of Gloucestershire. That's 38.4% of our senior staff do not live in the county, let alone live in the city of Gloucester. The population of Gloucestershire is 1.7 times greater than that of the country of Iceland. And I'm sure they manage to cope with employing staff that live in the area. I just wonder whether you're concerned, as I am, that if we were to end up with any other crisis in the city and we need our senior staff on hand to deal with the issues of public protection, etc., and it might well be an immediate emergency that we need to deal with, do we have enough resources at a senior level to cope, bearing in mind that 38% of our senior members of staff do not live in Gloucestershire?
So thank you, Councillor Hilton. From my perspective, no, I'm not concerned. I look around, not only does our MD, but all of our heads of and directors live within Gloucestershire. I think it would be remiss for the council to only employ people that live within Gloucester City's boundaries, as some of the roles that we recruit to have very specific and specialist skill sets, and therefore it would be crazy of us to not engage with suitably skilled individuals who may live in Bristol, which is commutable distance, Birmingham potentially, also a commutable distance. So I am comfortable that the senior leadership of this authority would plan for potential incidents that could occur. And as I say, I've got confidence that all of the senior team that are around the table this evening live within our county boundary.
Yeah, I was talking about the county boundary, not the city boundary, and you responded with an answer about the city boundary. I wasn't arguing that point.
Thank you, Councillor Hilton. Councillor Wilson.
Actually, I don't. I just want to record my thanks for the answer. The number, the money plan number I should have quoted should have been the 713, not the 349. So it was a very informative answer. So whoever put it together, just thank you for putting me straight. And just for the record, we don't have a 339 100,000 pulled in the budget.
Thank you, Councillor Wilson.
That was rather quicker than I thought it might take. Thank you very much for being concise. So we'll move on to the next item, which is Blackfriars Priory report. Councillor Lewis.
Thank you, Chair. This report is brought before us tonight to note the progress made against the 23-24 business plan. This is an award-winning venue in no small part due to the staff, and I thank them. 2023 saw 35 weddings, but also diverse cultural events and the History Festival set this apart from many, many other venues. The bottom line is that the venue is exceeding its budget by approximately 150,000, which is great news. They are much busier now than they were pre-pandemic, but they are not standing on their laurels and are expanding into different partnerships and festivals. When the work is done to the scriptorium, and the work is completed, and a new lease is signed, I'm sure this will go from strength to strength and will actually start turning a little profit when we come to it. This is great for the local economy, as when hiring caterers, etc., to actually provide these services and stuff that they do need in greater and greater value. They employ locally sourced firms, people, so it's great, and in that way it has a great social value for the city itself. I'm not going to go into sort of too much detail because we have got a long night, but it is a wonderful venue, and it's the, as I said before, I think it forecasts it's the jewel in the crown. So I just recommend everything within the report and how this will go from strength to strength.
Thank you, Councillor Lewis. Councillor Norman.
Thank you, Leader. Just really wanted to place on record my thanks and congratulations to the team at Blackfriars for all of their hard work. Not only are they an award-winning team in regards of their wedding provision, but I think it's pretty fantastic when you look at 3.3 of the report that their initial income target was 149,000 and they're estimated to achieve 294 by year end, which with my mathematics is 97% above the target they were initially set. So that's fantastic. Sitting within my own portfolio, I would always say, let's have more. Let's have the venue booked out to 100% capacity, but fantastic progress made in year, and the team should be congratulated for it.
Councillor Chambers.
Thank you, Leader. Yes, I just say, scrolling through Appendix A, it's great to see all the different activities that go on there, and it really brings the building to life in this modern age, and it's really interesting to see all the different things, and I look forward to attending some.
Thank you. Okay, thank you very much. All happy to note this report? Thank you very much. We'll move on to the next item, which is Guildhall galvanised. Thank you again, Councillor Lewis.
It's all in a row tonight. Thank you, Leader. In 2022, we received 230,000 from the Arts Council to enable us to do some much needed works, bringing the Guildhall up to standard. The bar and the kitchen were the most visible upgrade, with a new cellar being state of the art to enable better storage of beverages and stuff like that. The bar can now handle 4 serving staff, which is from, I think it's double the capacity as it was before. So it's much quicker, and it's much more pleasing to the people who attend the events. Other upgrades were made to the Wi-Fi, the main dance floor, a new dance studio, projector upgrades, stage lighting, and a new amplifier. All in all, this has made the Guildhall the city's premier live event venue for all the ranges of backgrounds, ethnicity, cultures, and community. As you can see from the pictures in the report, this funding has turned a tired building into a vibrant venue, one to be proud of. I recommend it to anybody to go there and enjoy the surroundings from the old to the new. And I myself have actually watched some royal ballet there, which was extremely interesting. Not normally my cup of tea, but it was extremely well presented, and it was big and bold with a new projector, and it was very, very good. So I recommend this to as a place to all of Gloucester from whatever background you come from. And I think it will go from strength to strength as well. So,
Thank you, Councillor Lewis. My own view is that the improvements have been amazing in there. I'm really pleased to hear that the Wi-Fi is now usable by everybody and is really quick. But the thing that impressed me the most was that sprung floor in the main room there, because I used to stick to the old floor and I don't stick to the new one. It's much, much better. And the bar in that room is a great idea, because it means that people have quicker access to refreshments, don't have to go out of the main room, don't have to miss the event that they're there, because they can use the bar, which is actually in there. So those improvements alone are well worthwhile. Opening up for any other comments? No? All happy to note the resolutions? Thank you. Next item then is Museum Development Plan. Councillor Lewis.
on a roll now, so here we go. This is a progress report on the 5-year plan for the museum. With such a massive 750,000 objects to catalogue and examine, and it takes a lot of work, because you have to actually know what you're doing and describe it and whatever. And obviously a lot of our artefacts are spread out all over the city in various places, not least the Folk Museum. When we digitise the catalogue now, it has to be up to a certain standard, so we become and still are accredited, and it has to be a first class service to do that. But not only just that, but the public program has resumed after the pandemic, but not quite to the pre-pandemic amounts, but it's 3/4 of the way there, and it is improving year on year, and I'm sure that they will keep on doing that. A lot of work of these sort of the museum goes on in the background, which is unsung and unheralded. But some of the events that they do put on, showcasing that, I think the latest was badges and buttons, which I find actually very interesting, because I'm interested in the Napoleonic type era. But I just want to put my personal thanks to Lucy and the crew there, because there's a lot of hard work goes on just to get it right, to look after the artefacts, to display the artefacts so that they are displayed in the best way. And I'm sure that being the custodians of our history, I call them, I think they're a fantastic group, and I wish all power to them. And I look forward to the museum going from strength to strength.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Lewis. Councillor Padilla.
Thank you, Chair. It is just right that we support this development plan. The museum is our cultural anchor, preserving and showcasing the history, art, and heritage of our city. For another, it contributes to the city's economy by attracting tourism and providing employment opportunities. And it also fosters a sense of belonging and pride in our city's cultural heritage. I support the adoption of the plan, and I thank the team for coming up with this initiative. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any other comments? I'd just like to say I welcome this this work. How you will ever manage to display all 750,000 items in the museum would be that would be a miracle in itself. But the more that you can get in there, or the more that you can rotate them, obviously the better story that the museum tells about our history. So I'm really quite pleased about that. So all happy then to note the recommendations. Thank you. And we'll move to the next item, which is tourism and destination marketing. Councillor Lewis.
Thank you very much. This is based on the Christmas campaign, Gloucester Believes, which is, I must admit, I went on BBC Radio Bristol saying that Gloucester still believes in Christmas. And this campaign was related to all the events and festivals and stuff like that goes on at Christmas. This was not just by ourselves, to be perfectly honest. It was Gloucester Bid and the Keys and other people that would coming to make that feel-good factor for Gloucester. You know, Gloucester's a great place to come for Christmas. Come and have a good time. Started with the lantern procession, and switching on the lights, and going on from there. And this was proved to have a marked impact on the footfall, especially down at the Quays and Gloucester Cathedral, which automatically had a knock-on effect throughout the whole city. So it was actually very vibrant and above the norm, which has an absolute knock-on effect to the feel factor. People think Gloucester's great and all the rest of it. But the businesses were doing well. And I'm sure that we hear all these things about the city centres and whatever, that they're declining. But in that case, we are actually starting to do slightly better than maybe somewhere else. So I want to put on record for Jack and his crew to come up with some of these ideas and some of the statistics. I must admit, I haven't got a clue what they're talking about, but I know they're doing well because we see the figures. The figures don't lie. So I just want to recommend, and hopefully we've learned 1 or 2 lessons this year, and it will go from strength to strength, especially at the Christmas time, which to a lot of businesses is the time they make the money and keep themselves going for the rest of the year. And hopefully we can promote a lot more other events and what stuff going throughout the year. And I think it was a good campaign, well received, and the people, and not just of Gloucester, but around Gloucester, responded to it, and they came to Gloucester. It was great.
Thank you, Councillor Norman.
Thank you, Leader. So I think the point I'd just like to make is that for a relatively modest campaign budget of £10,000, it really did prove dividends. And the fact that the footfall did increase for 2022 versus 23 versus 22 is fantastic. Standing in King Square for the Christmas lights, which I'll be honest, I've never seen it so busy. And it was lovely to see families with kids in buggies, their eyes lighting up in sort of awe and wonder, and all of the retailers that were doing well from having food being purchased and so on and so forth. So I think even if you just looked at that one event alone, I think it definitely paid dividends for the city, and it's fantastic that we did it in partnership with the BID and the Quays, so that obviously we as the City Council don't just have to drive these things independently. So I think it's really positive, and hopefully other cost-effective campaigns can be rolled out moving forward.
Councillor Chambers.
Thank you, Leader. My comments really are just along the same lines as Councillor Norman's, but one thing that I noticed was the increase on the digital marketing as well, which then seemed to have led to the increase in footfall, which is really promising to see for our businesses and our residents to all get together and just have a vibrant city.
And my only comment on it is that it's the best opportunity that Councillor Lewis has to put on his Christmas suit and get out in the city, and glad you enjoyed it. But I'd agree with everybody that the footfall on that particular night of the lighting up of the Christmas tree was huge. That square was absolutely packed. And then everybody went into the cathedral afterwards, and I think lots of people couldn't even get in because it was so busy. But if the businesses in the city centre did well as a result, that's the benefit that we're really aiming for. Although I secretly believe it's just down to everybody wanting to see Councillor Lewis in his Christmas wear. Okay, all happy to note the recommendations? Thank you. Finally, for Councillor Lewis, leisure services update.
Thank you, Leader, and thank you for those kind comments from before. The current provision for the leisure services within the city are going through the process now of, yesterday we had the Bidders' Day, which was very well received by some of the people and big companies that were there. They thought our facilities were big, to be perfectly honest, and of a good standard. And I want to put on record thanking Freedom for picking up the pieces after the collapse of Aspire. And coming in and running GL1 and Oxtalls, along with the university. They helped tremendously. I want to thank them as well. I think one of the biggest things that we have with this was the re-employment of 92 staff, which was a fantastic achievement in such a short time. I think it was just over 3 weeks from the collapse to the re-employment, which is the fastest turnaround, I think, in the leisure industry's history, should we say. I've got to go into the technical side of it now, because the paper actually asked for delegated authority to the Cabinet Member for Culture and Leisure and Performance and Resources to procure a new partner and for the starting the contract in the 2nd of January 2025. I must also put on record my thanks to Philip Walker. He left us yesterday, but he left us in a lot better state than we were 6 months ago. So I have to put on our loss is Bristol's gain. But yes, we're now well into the bidding process. I'm going to look forward to the bids coming in I think it's by May, something like that. And I look to see their wonderful ideas that we can go from and possibly pinch from each other or do whatever. But I think it's going to be very interesting. I think there's going to be some good proposals coming forward, and it will put our leisure services up where they should be. And I think it's an ongoing process, but I'm very, very hopeful we'll get a superb company in to run our services.
Thank you, Councillor Lewis. I had the opportunity yesterday to meet many of the providers or the potential providers of our leisure services going forward, and they were all very helpful and interesting in terms of what they were prepared to contribute into what we're going to deliver there in the leisure sector. And I also had the opportunity, as part of that, to meet with Freedom Leisure senior management, who I thanked for their help in delivering what we have delivered very quickly to cover after the demise of Aspire. So I'm very grateful to do that and to have the opportunity to meet with them, and pleased to note this report. Any other comments from anyone? Councillor Norman?
Thank you, Leader. So just like to add, not only thanks to Phil Walker for all of his hard work and dedication through this time, but also to our MD. The closure of Aspire was something that we weren't anticipating, but very much our MD led from the front and ensured that we had a plan for partial and then full reopening, like you say, almost record-breaking. I think it's also really important for us to acknowledge your role in this, and the fact that you were so front and centre to a lot of the communications requests during that time, and you went above and beyond in regards of interacting with the the staff that were affected by the closure, along with our MP, to give them as much reassurance as they could possibly get. And it's fantastic to see that so many of them are now working under Freedom and seem to be incredibly happy with the role that they're delivering. I think it would also be important to note thanks on behalf of the authority to them for what they have been doing. I'm sure it was an incredibly stressful time for them, but I'm sure with the stewardship of Freedom, they're happy to be back in their role and welcoming back all the residents of Gloucester that so very greatly appreciate the service that GL1 and Oxtalls provide.
Okay, thank you. Any more comments? No? Okay, in that case, are we all happy to note the recommendations? Thank you very much. Okay, we'll move on to the next report, which is the Council Plan 6-month update. And this report provides an update of the activities outlined in the Council Plan 2022 to 24 to build a greener, fairer, better Gloucester. Overview. The Council Plan was approved unanimously by Council in January 2022, setting out 3 priorities: building greener, healthier, inclusive communities, Secondly, building a sustainable city of diverse culture and opportunity. Thirdly, building a socially responsible and empowering council. The plan set out 45 actions split across the 3 priorities. Of these, 35 actions are completed or expected to complete on time, 9 actions which are delayed, and only 1 is not expected to complete. Updates of each of these is listed in Appendix 1 of the report. Significant achievements include the forum work progressing as planned, with 70% already let to the hotel, car park and office users. The Skills Academy delivered by Kia. Huge investment in the city by the Arts Council. Progress in the open spaces strategy with a new orchard at Hempstead and a £259,000 spent on playground repairs, grass pitch improvements and green flag retention. And finally, the climate change strategy has now been completed and is currently working through governance procedures. I'll close it there and ask for any comments. Councillor Norman.
Thank you, Leader. I think it's worth noting that because we had the shorter term this year because of the delay of the elections with COVID, this was always a very ambitious plan with the amount of actions that we were wanting to undertake in the period. But I think it's an amazing achievement, and thank you to all officers that have supported with these goals being either already completed or expected to be completed on time. In respect of some of these, they have been long ambitions of the authority. So to see movements on things like the Podsmead regeneration, I think is fantastic. And I very much look forward to that coming to fruition in the future. And some of these goals that have been achieved are making real change on behalf of Gloucester residents. So I think all officers should be commended, and I'm sure the MD will share that at the next all-staff briefing. But I think we can be very proud of what we've achieved in the last 3 years.
Councillor Lewis.
Yeah, he did mention the Arts Council, and from my portfolio side of things, without the sort of Arts Council providing a lot of funding in this city, a lot of stuff wouldn't go on. So I am extremely grateful to them because they like Gloucester for some reason. I like Gloucester. Everybody likes Gloucester. So the more money that we can get out of them now, I think is a wonderful idea. And then he's like the Guildhall and then the museum and Eastgate. It's all going to be so good, like Hannah said, for the people and the residents of Gloucester to make it a happy and wonderful place to live.
Thank you. Any other comment? No? Okay. Are we all happy to note the recommendations? Yes. Okay. Thank you. The next report is the electric vehicle charging in Gloucester. And the report updates the feasibility of installing electric vehicle charging points in Gloucester City Council assets, investigating the finance and contractual options. Cabinet is asked to resolve that officers identify options for installation of charge points in council-owned car parks with delegated authority to progress the most suitable options. With growing concerns about the climate crisis and expected uptake in electric vehicles, the City Council is following the County Council installation of on-street charging points by considering installation in council-owned car parks. Officers have considered soft market testing with potential providers in 12 council car parks, which are listed in 3.8 of the report. The total number of charges is expected to be between 50 and 60. The testing indicates that there will be no capital investment from the council, and there should be a profit-sharing agreement. Modelled emissions reductions for surface transport relies on the rapid uptake of zero tailpipe vehicles, which EV charging introduction and extension will help to catalyse. Open it up for any comment from anyone. Councillor Padilla.
I welcome the report and the plan, but as we adopt this, my hope is for these EV charging infrastructures to be installed in, throughout the city, so that we will be seen as inclusive in our approach to along this line. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anyone else? Councillor Chambers.
Yes, this report is really promising to see, if we can provide a service for the residents in our car parks, and it's not going to be an outward cost for us, and we can make some money out of it put back into the residents. I think it's perfect.
Thank you very much. All happy to note the resolutions? Thank you. Do this. The AQAP needs to be reviewed every 5 years, and the current draft will cover the period 2024 to 2028. The City Council is the monitoring authority, but we rely on partners to implement the relevant measures. Cabinet is asked to note the progress of the draft AQAP and to endorse it going out for consultation. Any comments? Councillor Lewis?
Yeah, thanks, Leader. Yes, this obviously goes hand in hand with the one we just had before about electric vehicles, which will help. And if it makes the city a more breathable place, I think it's a fantastic idea. And I hope the public will respond with the consultation.
I definitely suspect that the Air Quality Action Plan will show steady improvements as the uptake of electric vehicles increases. So, and since COVID, we've not anywhere near reached our the minimum targets that we have to reach in terms of air pollutants in the atmosphere. We're well below those targets, so it's good news. And I think this continued monitoring will continue that good news. All happy then to, Councillor Chambers.
Thank you, Leader. I just wanted to add that this is a really good thing that we do. We do the monitoring, but the important thing will be the measures which go alongside our climate plan changes and with the county and everybody, just to really help the people, particularly the people in our city that live with health conditions that can be affected by pollutants. So I really welcome this report.
Thank you. All happy to note the recommendations? Yes. Okay, the next report is the future opportunities for the Fleece. This report seeks Cabinet approval to enable officers to explore a potential development option for the Fleece, including the Longsmith Street car park. Cabinet is asked to resolve that the head of place, in consultation with the Cabinet Member for Environment, agrees a statement of intent with the Phoenix Village project to progress to agree heads of terms to enable the redevelopment of the site and to pursue appropriate grant funding opportunities. Appendix A of the report shows the extent of the site. The history of the site and buildings is considered in section 3. In 2017, the council took the Fleece site to the market to deliver a regeneration scheme. Dowdeswell Estates won that opportunity with a proposal to develop into a boutique hotel with retail, with the inclusion of the car park enabling viability. However, although the first round of Levelling Up funding and positive responses from National Lottery Heritage Fund made the regeneration look positive, the pandemic has significantly changed the local economy. As a result, the agreement with Dowdeswell was reviewed in 2023. However, funding from Historic England, in terms of the High Street Heritage Action Zone funding in the interim, has enabled work to take place to analyse parts of the site, which de-risks the redevelopment liabilities. Officers have continued to seek development partners. The Phoenix Village project have expressed an interest and are developing a business plan for use of the site as a one-stop full-service provision for disadvantaged young adults, potentially delivering a strategic link between the cathedral and the docks, which could be a vibrant mixed-use scheme, providing small-scale retail, food and drink, leisure, and even residential opportunities, whilst tackling issues of homelessness, substance abuse, and lack of skills for local young people. Next steps will be to work with Phoenix Village to develop heads of terms, whilst simultaneously seeking grant funding to support the redevelopment. It is necessary to bring the Fleece back to life to preserve the heritage assets for future generations. Having done much survey work in recent years, and with an interesting party presenting a business case that fits the council's aspirations, it seems a very good opportunity to develop the plans further. And open it up to any comments. Councillor Lewis.
Stay quiet on it. Yes, it's a great opportunity, and it's sad it's got to sort of taken so long or whatever, and hopefully the Phoenix will come up with something, and it will be, especially for the young, because we are a youngish city. Our demographics are for the young, so hopefully this will come to fruition and get the old Fleece back into circulation.
Thank you. Councillor Chambers.
Thank you, Leader. I wholeheartedly support this scheme, which provides some really practical solutions for disadvantaged young people and brings a historic part of our city back to life. I remember when I first saw this scheme come in front of me, and I just thought, I really hope this can happen. So, you know, fingers crossed that it does get ahead.
Thank you. Okay, I see no further comments. All happy to note the recommendations then. Thank you. Finally, not finally, sorry, my penultimate one, the Whitefriars Phase 2 land remediation. And this report is to gain Cabinet approval to award a contract for site remediation at Whitefriars Phase 2. Following the successful grant award of almost £478,000 from the Brownfield Land Release Fund announced last October. The land at 8 to 11 Market Parade has been acquired for residential use. It currently has planning permission for 24 homes, although officers believe it could accommodate 32. Council has to enter into a contract to remediate this land by the end of this month. As Council has a development funding agreement with REEF, a deed of variation with REEF is being worked up to include the demolition and land remediation on the site. This does not commit the Council beyond remediation, and a revised planning application will be made in due course. The Council will have to ensure that the 32 apartments are constructed by March 2027. Cabinet is asked to resolve that the £478,000 is accepted and that the contract for work is awarded to REEF as described earlier. Open it up for any comments now. Councillor Chambers.
Thank you, Leader. This type of work is exactly what we want to see coming through our planning system. Brownfield land being regenerated, but we all know that's very difficult quite often. So this grant funding is fantastic to help us get that done and provide some much needed homes in the city in an area where it just needs improvement.
Thank you. Anyone else? No? Okay, happy to note this report then. Thank you. And I think my penultimate report then is about the City Regions Board. The local authorities in Gloucestershire have jointly worked for several years through membership of several boards, including the Gloucestershire Economic Growth Joint Committee. Leadership Gloucestershire agreed that these boards and the Joint Committee should be merged into a single forum under the name of the Gloucestershire City Region Board. The aims of this new board will be to develop a vision for the whole of the Gloucestershire economic area, establishing the city region as a nationally defined area that is a single economic functional area. Governance and guiding principles of the board are considered in sections 4.3 and 4.4, whilst the operational arrangements will be the subject of an inter-authority agreement, which will include the agreed terms of reference, the operational arrangements, the role of the County Council, and the overall constitutional arrangements for the board. The Strategic Economic Development Fund is an outcome of the business rates pool established in 2018. It was subject to administration through an eligibility and project approval process, which rather looked like a first-come, first-served operation. The proposal is for the City Region Board to administer the CEDEF, allowing the build-up of a pipeline enabling a more rigorous analysis, thereby supporting the local economy through a more strategic approach. Scrutiny of the City Region Board will be by repurposing the former Gloucestershire Economic Growth Scrutiny Committee. Appendix 1 sets out the proposed terms of reference, whilst Appendix 2 details the administration of the Strategic Economic Development Fund. Reports similar to this will be taken to each local authority in Gloucestershire for approval in advance of the founding of the Gloucestershire City Region Board. Open it up for any comments.
Thank you, Leader. So just to say, it seems to make perfect sense as to why you would want to move this forward. I'm really pleased to see that the combined scrutiny arrangements will still continue and that a representative from each body will be on there, as it's incredibly important that the work of the board is able to be scrutinised in public. So fully supportive of the recommendations of the report.
Thank you, Councillor Norman. Any other comments? No? Okay. happy to note the resolutions. Thank you. And that was my final report. So we'll move on to private sector stock condition survey, number 18, Councillor Chambers.
Thank you, Leader. So this report provides a summary of the very comprehensive private sector housing condition survey, which is the first one undertaken since 2011. The full survey can be found at Appendix 2, and the previous 2011 report can be found at Appendix 3. Appendix 4 contains some of the recommendations, including a member briefing to all councillors, which I fully support considering the technical nature of the report. Firstly, I think it's very important to thank the residents that allowed their homes to be surveyed, as without their cooperation it would not have been possible. It is great to see that the condition of the housing stock across Gloucester is generally good compared to the national picture, and I am thankful in particular to our private sector housing team who have worked tirelessly to improve many homes across our city. Whilst it's reassuring that the stock is generally good and significant improvements have been made since 2011, the purpose of the report is to identify areas that we can focus our resources on and will form part of our policies going forward. First and foremost, the focus must be on Category 1 hazards, as these are what can cause the most damage to residents' health and well-being. And I would like to urge all residents and members of the council that are living in homes with disrepair or become aware of a property that they suspect is not meeting the decent home standards, then report it to our private sector housing team via our customer services through Here to Help. As I've mentioned, this report and the appendices contain a huge amount of detail. However, I hope that the Cabinet are supportive of the recommendations in this report and that this vital information is utilised to assist in forming the housing strategy in the coming years. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Norman.
Thank you, Leader. Just to echo Councillor Chambers' comments, fully supportive of this moving further forward. Just to bring one comment on the members' briefing that was requested from ONS. Again, I think that's a very good idea. The one thing I would say, though, is that this authority is likely to have a lot of newly elected councillors after the local elections in May 24, and therefore consideration of the timing of that briefing is quite critical. As previously, through the work that I've done on the Member Development Committee, some newly elected councillors felt that they were overloaded with information within their first couple of months. And because this is such a technical report and so detailed, you need to be careful of the timing of when you do that briefing to get the best outcome for all elected members. But yeah, very happy with this report and glad to see that it will become a core component of the strategy that will come in due course.
Councillor Lewis.
Thanks, Chair. Everybody is entitled to have a decent home, whatever stages they are in this world, and this will actually help people get what they deserve. It should be dry, should be mould free, shouldn't leak or whatever. The team do a fantastic work in both the private and the public sectors. So I just thank the staff and whatever, but and yes, there is room for improvement, but and Councillor Chambers says we are slightly better than the national average, but we can't rest on our laurels. We've got to, if we can get it down to there's no problems at all, but that's where we're working for. But yes, this will come in very handy to go from strength to strength with sorting out any problems.
Well, I would just say at 371 pages, this is by far the longest report I've ever read, and I hope everybody else read it as thoroughly as I did. But it is a great report, and it does give us the opportunity of doing some really good work involved in our housing sector and ensuring that the quality of the houses is improved wherever it's possible to do so. So I trust that we're all happy to note the report's recommendations. Thank you. And we'll move to the next one, which is item 19, Regulating Housing Standards Policy. Councillor Chambers.
Thank you, Leader. And this report follows on very nicely from the last one. So I'm very happy to bring this report to Cabinet today, as I strongly believe in its principles of engagement, education and enforcement, and in that order. As the report details, this policy promotes engagement and education by providing advice, information and assistance and signposting where appropriate. And only then, if the approach fails, enforcement action will be taken. This council's objectives are certainly not to penalise good landlords, as they play a vital part in our city's housing need. However, we are here to ensure that all housing in our city meets the required standards, and we'll work with landlords to ensure they meet these standards. The private sector housing team have improved 695 homes since Q1 of 2022, which is a large number of residents that will have increased health and wellbeing outcomes due to improved housing conditions. We know that there is always more to do, and the housing team will continue to improve more properties across the city, and this policy will assist them in improving more outcomes for residents. I would urge again that any tenants that are concerned about their property or at risk of eviction to get in contact with the council at the earliest opportunity, where we will do all we can to assist them. And Cabinet has asked to resolve the recommendations listed in item 2.1, and for myself, I am very happy to do so.
Thank you very much, Councillor Chambers. Any comments from anyone? No? Okay. All happy to agree the recommendations? Thank you very much. And item 20, City Centre Conservation Area Appraisal and Management Plan. Councillor Chambers.
Thank you, Leader. I feel like we've seen this report in some form a few times now. So, and I always say I was really amazed by the detail in the report. And it is a very interesting read, particularly if you like the history of the city. This report seeks the adoption of the updated City Centre Conservation Area Appraisal and Management Plan and asks Cabinet to recommend to Council the items in 2.1. This is a detailed and interesting report for anyone to read and contains some fantastic history of the most significant historical sites in the city centre. The boundaries have been extended to include the area on the northern side of Westgate Street and the area of Bearland House and some properties in Longsmith Street. This document will be adopted as a supplementary planning document, and once adopted will replace the previous 2007 appraisal.
Thank you. Open it up for any comments. Councillor Lewis.
Thank you, Chair. Having been on the planning committee for years, this sort of document brings a lot of things into focus about our history, what we need to do to preserve it, not just for ourselves, but for generations to come. We've got 2,000 years of history here, and we need to protect that, but also to be able to look forward to the future so we can make our own history, should we say, for the area. And this sort of document goes a long, long way to actually preserve it, but also going forward in the future. So I wholeheartedly recommend it.
Thank you very much. For me, I would just say that the importance of conservation in the city centre is paramount. We need to preserve what we can do in the city centre and improve it so that to identify a larger area where we can do that, I think has to be beneficial for the city in order to preserve that heritage. So all happy to accept the recommendations? Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Chambers. We'll move on to item 21, which is the Community Engagement Report, which is Councillor Padilla. Thank you.
Thank you, Leader. Right in front of us is a report prepared by the Community Engagement team with respect to the community engagement work that they're doing across the city. Our community engagement work has involved a diverse range of stakeholders, ensured broad participation, and made significant impact across various segments of our community. Our community engagement team had taken into great account and supported the City Council work on equality, diversity, and inclusion, asset-based community development, hate crime awareness, Gloucester Dementia Action, youth engagement, Nourishing Gloucester, holiday activity and food program, financial inclusion, household support initiatives, integrated locality partnership and strengthening local communities, Gloucestershire Funders, Black Ridge Sports and Community Hub, Safer Spaces initiatives and consultations, community safety and solace, to mention a few. Community engagement work should be supported going forward because it fosters trust, demonstrates care and commitment to the community, and help address concerns and issues promptly. It also promotes a positive reputation and strengthen relationships with community members. Adopting this report and sustaining it will lead to a more engaged and supportive community. I support the adoption of this report and I endorse it for your approval as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you. For me, this work is done entirely by the community wellbeing team, and I think they deserve our congratulations because they work so hard and so effectively within the city, supporting all the issues that you mentioned, like equality, diversity, inclusion, food, so many different issues that they work on. I think they do an amazing job, and I would look for the Director of Communities to pass on our congratulations for the work that they do, and because it does bring welcome benefits to the city. Councillor Lewis.
Yeah, a lot of these papers now come sort of roundabout into my sort of portfolio, but we are such a diverse city. We speak 60 languages in this city. So to get everybody almost like singing from the same hymn sheet and to look after each other, and it's quite an incredible achievement that the wellbeing team have actually put this together, and it makes it such a great place to live. And I recommend everything that is in this report. It's just, I do, like I say, commend the team because it's an outstanding piece of work, that's for sure.
Councillor Chambers.
Thank you, Leader. This is a fantastic report, and I think the team have done an amazing job. I just wanted to focus in on item 3.6 and the Youth Engagement Officer, and just my experience. So we've recently undertaken, and it's still going, the strategic local plan consultation, and that Youth Engagement Officer's input into that. I've just checked online now to see what engagement we've had. We've had 90 engagements on a strategic local plan planning policy document for 13 to 25-year-olds. And I think that is probably thanks to their input in that. So that's fantastic news, and I really recommend this report.
Okay, thank you very much. I think we're all agreed it's a good report. All happy to accept the recommendations. Okay, lovely, thank you. And now we move on to Councillor Norman. First report is the Social Value Policy Review.
Thank you, Leader. So, Cabinet, this report is to highlight the achievements of the Council's social value policy since its adoption in October 2020. The Council's social value policy considers the social value impact of contracts via procurement activity exceeding £50,000 within the Council, but currently excluding framework agreements. During procurement activity, social value will be given a 10% weighting on assessment of submissions. The Council decided that social value deliverables should cover the following 5 areas. Firstly, promoting local skills and employment, supporting growth of responsible regional business, creating healthier, safer and more resilient communities, protecting and improving our environment, and finally promoting social innovation. I'm pleased to confirm that since its adoption via the Social Value Portal, it's showing delivery across 14 projects with a total contract value of £9.06 million. Within these projects, we have seen £1.329 million of social value delivered, demonstrating a 14.66 added social value. The highlights include 22,188 car miles saved, 54 hours of career support sessions delivered to young people, 31,357 invested in community support, 20 new people employed locally, £1,400 spent with the voluntary and community sector, £749.87 spent within the local community, 134 volunteering hours provided to local community projects, and finally 3 weeks of work experience provided for young people. I hope that Cabinet can support the resolutions, which not only note the aims of the policy and note the progress to date, but also accept some changes to the policy and also to the Gloucester City TOMs so that they're accepted moving forward. And it also asks that only minor changes can be administered through the Director of Communities and this portfolio, and it would only need to come back to Cabinet for more substantial changes. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Norman. I think the figure of £1.329 million of social value delivered is incredible. Before this social value was introduced to the Council's purchasing policy, that would not have happened, and therefore we are doing great work in the city. Councillor Padilla.
Thank you, Leader. I support the adoption of this report because the social value policy promotes community well-being in that social value policies ensure that public resources are used to create positive impacts on the community, such as job creation, skills development, and improved social services. For another, it addresses inequality. By considering social value in decision-making, organizations can address inequalities and promote social inclusion by supporting marginalized groups and communities. And these are just two of the reasons that are worth mentioning. I support the adoption of the report, and I hope my colleagues will also follow suit.
Thank you. Councillor Chambers.
Thank you, Leader. I think this policy is fantastic since it had been introduced, and sometimes as a council we're criticised for procuring external companies to deliver our council objectives. And, you know, despite the fact that it is quite often better to find those specialist services within external companies, that, you know, look at the value that's coming back from that, which wouldn't be happening if we were trying to keep these things in-house. So this is a fantastic, and it provides, you know, a great deal of social value for the communities.
Thank you. Councillor Lewis.
Wasn't going to, but I will. This is a fantastic way of actually measuring the impact on the communities and Gloucester as a whole. You know, 22,000 car miles saved. That's a lot of miles. It's more than my car's actually done, actually, but there we go. 31,000 invested in community support. It is a way of making and measuring what makes people's lives better. And the social value might be a new buzzword and statement or whatever, but it works. And it's a way we can measure as a council what we do has a benefit. And that's all it's about. It's brilliant.
Thank you all. The recommendations? Yes, okay. We'll move on to the cemetery rules and regulations review. Councillor Norman.
Thank you, Leader. So following the Cabinet meeting on the 10th of January 2024, the proposed changes to the rules and regulations for the Gloucester City Cemetery were promoted via public consultation between the 19th of January and the 16th of February 2024. The consultation was promoted via the SurveyMonkey platform, with users of the cemetery and funeral directors also engaged. The consultation received 128 responses. 95% of the responses came from Gloucester residents, and 96% of those who completed the survey also used the Gloucester Cemetery. 90% of respondents either agreed or had no preference on wanting deed holders to be allowed to place a border around a 3 foot by 2 foot in front of the headstone in either concrete or granite, not to be higher than 7 inches. 81% of respondents either agreed or had no preference on the recommendation that funeral floral tributes should be removed within 2 weeks to ensure that the cemetery looks its best. The proposed new rules, as outlined in 3.3 of the report, have been suggested following best practice within the industry, the demands of running an operational cemetery, and to give a more affordable border material option to aid deed holders. We appreciate that the changes may not solution possible. Cabinet is asked to resolve to approve the changes to the rules and regulations of the Coney Hill and Treadworth cemeteries as set out in Appendix 2 with effect from the 1st of April 2024. that the public consultation on the rules and regulations be noted, and that all deed holders who do not comply with the rules and regulations shall receive written notification asking them to comply within 14 days. Thank you.
Open it up for any comments. Councillor Lewis.
Yeah, it's very hard. It's a very emotive thing when a loved one dies, and you don't always see what's going to happen or whatever. But our cemetery and crematorium is an award-winning, gold standard place, and the staff there do an incredibly difficult job extremely well. And every time I have the unfortunate thing to go up there to go to a funeral, I always pop in the office to say thank you to them. I don't think it's a job I could do because I do get too emotional. But there has to be rules and regulations, otherwise it would be a little bit of a free-for-all. It's not always what people want, but it's what needs to happen. And I think our actual rules and regulations is quite lax compared to some of them are out there. It's something that is very, very personal, and I understand it, but also the neatness, the tidiness, which we all want for our crematorium and the gravesites, have to be standardised, otherwise it will look a mess after a while. So it's very, very unfortunate. Some people aren't happy with the recommendations, but I think for the general populace around us, it's a good report, and yeah, it needs to be regularized, and it is good, but not as good as what some people would want. But I think it's a good halfway house between what we can do for the residents and the bereaved at the same time.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Lewis. I don't see any more comments, so I'll just chip in by saying that the team that we have up at the crematorium are absolutely brilliant in terms of their engagement with people, in terms of the way they deal with people who are mourning loved ones. I think they do an absolutely amazing job. I'm sorry that some people probably think that our rules are too strict, but I agree with Councillor Lewis that our rules are there to make the crematorium look its best at all times. And yet, although some people want them to be even laxer than they are at the moment, I think we've picked a very good halfway house in terms of the rules and regulations that we've set for the crematorium. Okay, all happy to support the recommendations? Fine, we'll move on then to Financial Monitoring Q3 report.
Thank you, Leader. So, Cabinet, this report contains the forecasted year-end position after Q3 of the 2023-24 financial year. Within 2.2 of the report, it highlights a 683,000 decrease in the general fund balance versus the budgeted position of a 104,000 decrease. This is a £394,000 improvement from the Q2 report. The major pressures on the council in-year budget are outlined in 4.4 of the report, and it include temporary accommodation costs for the homeless, an overspend of 610,000 against the 9-month budget, but due to actions being taken and additional grant receipts, the full year forecast has improved by 103,000 in the period. The spike in energy costs and the cost of living crisis has led to the leisure provision becoming increasingly expensive to operate, an overspend against the 9-month budget of 576,000, forecast to be 630,000 by the year end. This, however, is an improved by 143,000 from the Q2 forecast as a result of the appointment of the interim operator working to a fixed budget. We've also seen a decline in planning income as development costs increase and the boost of small planning applications caused by COVID home working fall away. So income during the first 9 months has only reached 66% of the budgeted figure. Within my own portfolio, we're forecasting to be over budget by 348,000. This is an improvement from Q2 by 30,000. The continued closure of Longsmith Street car park has led to a reduction in the expected income of 130,000, with the car park not expected to be reopened prior to the end of this financial year. A positive outcome from the council, however, is in regard to the long-standing business rates challenge to the Valuation Office in relation to charging of business rates on museums. This has led to a 400,000 windfall of business rate refunds covering the period of 2011 to 2023. And this has been recorded as a corporate receipt in the financial and corporate line. I'm sure my Cabinet colleagues will wish to make comments reference their own portfolios, and thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Norman. The comments I'll make about mine is I'm surprised it's as good as it is, but there we go. In fact, the reason mine has gone slightly negative over what it was because of wage increases, which are because of the inflationary pressures that we're undergoing in the economy at these times. A bit difficult to predict that in advance, but I'm not too unhappy about the outturn from my portfolio. Open it up to any others. Councillor Chambers.
Thank you, Leader. And as Councillor Norman noted, there is a significant overspend in the housing and homelessness portfolio. But it's really reassuring to see in 5.15 that the improvement from Q2 position. And the housing teams have been working extremely hard, constantly, to come up with innovative solutions that are really going to help improve the financial position. But the one thing that I have noticed on every conversation or every meeting that I've had in relation to the temporary housing situation is that everybody is ensuring that the standards do not slip and residents are going to be getting a good service. So that is really what the team are all about. So they need to bring down the costs, but, you know, they're making sure residents don't suffer as part of that. In fact, there's going to be improvements to the situation. So that's really reassuring, and I'd like to put on record the thanks to all the team that have been working so hard, not just within housing, because I know it crosses a lot of portfolios. And then in relation to the planning, there's been a downturn in applications, which has led to a downfall in receipts. But one thing that's still being worked on is the Ripper and Bots, which is to digitalise it's a national project to digitalise the planning system. And I think over the time, as that starts to filter through and become more apparent, we'll start to streamline the process and create efficiencies going forward. So that's promising.
Thank you, Councillor Lewis.
Yeah, I'm actually quite happy with my portfolio, apart from the leisure, which obviously was an unfortunate event. Otherwise, I think we'd be actually there or thereabouts on budget. And I expect in the years to come, with Guildhall and Blackfriars especially, we actually start turning the corner and hopefully make a profit. But they are great facilities, and you know, we saw the destination marketing earlier on for 10,000. We had such a windfall of throughout the city, and the markets and street trading. Well, the markets, if we actually move that indoors, we'll see that going from strength to strength as well. So while I still got a fair deficit within my portfolio, I think it's understandable as to where we are. But I'm sure next year will be much, much better.
Thank you, Councillor Lewis.
All I can say is the team continues to rise over and above the challenges that we all are going through during this cost of living crisis. The community engagement work is an excellent thing that is going on. And we continue to support our partners on the ground, our community organizations, which in effect would result in our residents being supported every step of the way, hopefully. I'm happy with the financial report, and my hope is that we can get to a point where it will be all the more improved for the sake of the well-being of those who are relying on us. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So all happy to note the recommendations? Yeah, okay, thank you. We'll move on to pay policy statement 24-25. Councillor Norman.
Thank you, Leader. So, Cabinet, the pay policy statement is an annual piece of work for the Council to comply with the Localism Act of 2011. First, Cabinet and then Council are asked to approve the statement, and therefore this report will be on the Council agenda on the 21st of March. The full statement is listed in Appendix 1 and highlights the council FTE count, the pay structure of the council at both Green Book and chief officer level, and the policy discusses in detail the salary bandings for the most senior officers within Gloucester City. Thank you.
Open it up for any comments, but I don't see any. I don't think this is one that we normally have much to say about. So thank you, Councillor Norman. All happy to note the recommendations. Thank you. Next item then, Capital Strategy 24-25. Councillor Norman.
Thank you, Leader. The Capital Strategy in front of Cabinet is a regular report since the establishment of best practice in line with the Prudential Code of Capital Finance in local authorities in April 2018. The Capital Strategy focuses on core principles that underpin the Council's 5-year capital programme, providing a position statement of progress and the resources available. Due to its nature, members will find that parts of the capital strategy will overlap with other council documents, such as the Treasury Management Strategy, the Asset Management Strategy, Property Management Strategy, and also the council plan. This overlap is intentional, as all these strategies are designed to serve the objectives of the council. In 2024-25, the council is planning capital expenditure of 36.272 million, as summarised in the table, and this follows the forecasted spend for this year of 48.894 million. This investment was enabled with the following projects. So primarily King's Quarter and the Forum. This continues at progress and it's expected to finish later this year. The project is a significant investment by this council in not only the physical but economic regeneration of our city. The plans include retail, office, hotel and residential areas, which will see this part of the city completely redeveloped. Pleased to report that the scheme is already 70% full. The Whitefriars apartments were part of this phase and were completed in 2023. And I believe that all of the apartments are now under offer, which is a fantastic return on investment for the council. This capital programmes also include the refurbishment of King's Walk, with new tenants showing interest in space. The capital strategy also captures the Levelling Up Round 3 award of 11 million to enable the redevelopment of the Greyfriars Quarter, including the relocation of the indoor Eastgate Market and improving the surrounded area, which needs to be completed before March 2026. The capital strategy will be monitored and reviewed annually, and it was debated at Audit and Governance Committee on the 4th of March with limited debate, so they may be saving it for Council. But I hope that Cabinet can accept the recommendation to send this to Council for debate on the 21st. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Lewis.
Yeah, I mean, this shows, I think, our ambition for this city with the Forum, Eastgate, and everywhere in the city centre is going to be regenerated, and it's going to be a great place to go to because the council are forward thinking what we could do for this city and for the residents of this Gloucester. But apart from that, I just want to put on record our thanks to Greg and his team. So a lot of work goes into this, and you know, you do steer us right, and thank you very much, and may you continue for a long time. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Councillor Chambers.
Thank you, Leader. And as Councillor Lewis said, this showcases the ambition of the council and what we're doing with the regeneration of the city to make everybody feel welcome, enjoy the city, but also vitally we've provided some new homes for residents of our city, living in the city centre, going along with our vision for the city centre to be a more vibrant place where people live, they work, they have their entertainment and they shop. So I think this just really focuses on that vision, and I think it's a great strategy.
Okay, thank you. Okay, all happy to note the recommendations. Thank you very much. So the penultimate one is Treasury Management Strategy 24-25. Councillor Norman.
Thank you, Leader. So the Treasury Management Strategy in front of Cabinet is a standard item for the Council plan each year. Cabinet is asked to recommend to Council that the Treasury Management Strategy as per Appendix 1 be approved. that the authorised borrowing limit of between 280 to 305 million for 2024 to 2027 be approved, and that the prudential indicators set out in section 2 of the strategy be approved. The Treasury Management Strategy was debated at Ordinance Governance Monday this week, again with limited debate, and the strategy will be an agenda item at full council on the 21st of March. The 2024-25 strategy recommends continuing to operate within an under-borrowed position. This reflects the council using internal resources, such as reserves, to fund borrowing need, rather than invest those funds for return. This strategy is sensible at this point in time for two reasons. Firstly, the lost interest of those funds is significantly less than the costs of borrowing money for the capital programme. And in addition, using the resources to reduce debt, the council will reduce exposure to investment counterparty risk. The strategy allows flexibility for either debt rescheduling or new long-term fixed-rate borrowing, while allowing the council to benefit from lower interest rates on temporary borrowing at the current time. The strategy also includes the minimum revenue provision policy statement. By approving this strategy and then on to council, we comply with multiple regulatory requirements as outlined in 9.1 of the report. Thank you.
Thank you. Any comments from anyone? No? Okay, no. Thank you very much. I'll just ask then, are we happy to support the recommendations? Yeah, okay, thank you. And I believe now the last report for tonight, the Business Rates Retail Hospitality and Leisure Relief Scheme. Councillor Norman.
Thank you, Leader. So Cabinet is asked to resolve that the Retail, Hospitality and Leisure Business Rates Relief Scheme 24-25, as per Appendix A, be the approved scheme for Gloucester City for 24-25. In the Autumn 23 statement, the Chancellor announced the extension of the Business Rates Relief Scheme for retail, hospitality and leisure properties. It is for all local authorities to adopt a local scheme and to grant retail, hospitality and leisure relief, having regard to government guidance. The relief will support the businesses that make up our high street and town centres and make them successful. So it's really important that we do this. So for the year 24-25, the Business Rates Relief Scheme will award 75% relief to eligible occupied retail, hospitality and leisure properties up to a cash cap limit of £110,000 per business. I hope the Cabinet can agree with these recommendations. Thank you.
Any comments from anyone? No? All happy then to note the recommendations? Thank you very much. And that concludes our business for tonight. It's the longest Cabinet meeting that I've ever chaired. So well done everybody for staying awake.